Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really dense but fascinating topic, human evolution, specifically the hominin line. We're diving into Strickberger's evolution text.
That's right. And our goal for you, the listener, is to navigate this, well, let's call it the bushy family tree of our ancestors. It can seem overwhelming.
Absolutely. We want to cut through the complexity, pinpoint the key species, the crucial evidence, and really understand the story of how Homo sapiens came to be.
Exactly. We're starting from that split with our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, and tracing the major shifts.
Okay, big picture first. Primates go way back, maybe 85 million years. But hominins, that's us and our extinct close relatives, we split from the chimpanzee lineage sometime between, 7 and 7.5 million years ago in Africa.
Precisely. And we tend to define our lineage by things like big brains, complex societies, language.
But the fossil record tells a slightly different story about the beginning. There's one trait that seems to kickstart everything else.
Right. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What was the first major change? The fundamental evolutionary innovation that set the stage.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the fossils are pretty clear on this one. It wasn't the big brain, not initially. It was walking upright.
Bipedalism. That's the key. Habitual, two-legged locomotion.
Before we dive into that, maybe a quick nod to our primate roots. Shared traits like larger brains for body size, grasping hands, that forward-facing vision.
Yeah, good point. Remember, primates split early on, about 77 million years ago, into the wet-nosed strepsirrhines think lemurs and the dry-nosed haplohemes, which includes monkeys, apes, and us.
And our focus really zooms in on that ape lineage, specifically the human-chimp relationship. They're our sister group. Genetically, the divergence is placed somewhere between 6 and 7.5 million years ago. Depends on the molecular data you use.
It's fascinating, though. We share so much behaviorally tool use, social complexity, and yet genetically, that difference is maybe only 4%.
4 base pairs out of every 100, compared to, 0.1% difference between individual humans?
Exactly. That small genetic divergence accounts for huge anatomical and cognitive differences. So finding the earliest hominins means looking for that first crucial trait,
Bipedalism.
bipedalism. And the evidence starts appearing quite early. We have tantalizing possibilities like Sahelanthropus achuensis, maybe 6.5 to 7.4 million years ago.
The key there is the foramen magnum, right? The hole where the spine connects to the skull. Its position suggests an upright posture.
It suggests it, yeah. Then you get Orrorin tugenensis, around 6 million years ago, Ardipithecus kadabba at 5.5 million. Their leg and arm bones show adaptations leaning towards walking on 2 legs.
So the pattern emerging from these very early fossils is...
Unmistakable. The changes in the skeleton for walking upright came first, significantly earlier than the major expansion of the brain. Bipedalism was the foundational shift.
Okay, that sets the stage. Now, moving forward, we hit the Australopithecines, the southern apes.
Right, and this isn't one single line. Think of it as a burst of evolution or radiation.
Yeah.
At least 8 different lineages popping up between roughly 4.5 and 2.5 million years ago.
A real evolutionary experimentation phase.
Definitely. You have species like Ardipithecus ramidus around 4.3 to 4.5 million years ago. Still quite ape-like in many ways, kind of a bridge figure.
But the real star, evidence-wise, for early bipedalism is Australopithecus afarensis.
Absolutely. That's Lucy's species.
Lucy. Found in Ethiopia about 3.2 million years old. A small female, maybe only 1 to 1.2 meters tall, but clearly bipedal from her skeleton.
And it's not just Lucy. We have other skeletons, and then there's the Laetoli footprints. Just incredible evidence.
Tell us about those. It sounds dramatic.
It really is. Imagine this. 3.7 million years ago, a volcano erupts, lays down a layer of ash. 2, maybe 3 A. afarensis individuals walk across it.
Leaving their footprints.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then more ash falls, preserving those prints perfectly. It's a snapshot of their gait, clearly bipedal, striding, not shuffling, direct evidence of locomotion.
Wow. And wasn't there a foot bone discovery, too?
Yes, relatively recently. A 4th metatarsal bone from A. afarensis. It shows they had a distinct arch in their foot, much like modern humans. You need that arch for an efficient push-off when walking or running.
So the case for afarensis being a dedicated walker seems pretty solid.
Very solid. And this evidence, along with other finds, really cemented Africa as the cradle of human evolution, which was important because, well, history got messy.
You mean the Piltdown man?
Exactly, the Piltdown hoax. For about 40 years, from the early 1910s into the 50s, this fake fossil, a modern human skull cap, fused with an orangutan jaw, completely misled anthropologists.
40 years. It suggested brain expansion came first and that it happened in Europe.
Right, it skewed the whole field. It wasn't until discoveries like the tongue child, Australopithecus africanus, found in 1925 in South Africa.
That showed a small brain but more human-like posture features.
Precisely. That slowly started turning the ship back towards Africa, and the idea that bipedalism, not brain size, was the initial driver.
So why bipedalism? What was the advantage?
Well, the prevailing hypothesis involves the changing environment. More patchy woodlands and grasslands. Walking upright could be more efficient for covering distances between food sources.
Maybe helps you see over tall grass, spot predators.
Could be. And critically, it frees the hands. For carrying food, carrying infants, eventually for carrying and using tools, even simple ones like sticks or stones.
Which leads us right into the next major phase, the arrival of our own genus, Homo.
Around 2.5 million years ago, again in East Africa. And you see changes pretty quickly. Brains start getting bigger, maybe 600, 700 cubic centimeters initially, and their teeth change, smaller molars than the Australopithecines.
Less grinding, maybe a different diet.
Possibly. And again, it's not a straight ladder. The textbook stresses this. It's a bush with multiple branches. Early species like Homo rudolfensis and Homo habilis are likely in the mix as ancestors.
But then comes a species that really seems to break out, Homo erectus.
Or its African forerunner, sometimes called Homo ergaster. Taller, leaner bodies, significantly larger brains, climbing toward 750, even over 1,100 cubic centimeters. And crucially, they spread.
The first major dispersal out of Africa?
Yeah. H. erectus fossils are found far and wide, Java, China, parts of Europe. They were adaptable, capable travelers. Brain size eventually reaches up to 1,200 cc in some later erectus.
And this expansion is tied to tools, right? We see technological shifts.
Absolutely. You can track cultural evolution alongside biological evolution through the stone tool record, the Paleolithic Stone Age. There are roughly 4 main stages described.
Okay, stage 1?
Oldowan. Starts around 2.5 million years ago, maybe linked to H. habilis. Simple tools, basically sharp flakes knocked off a coarse stone. Good for cutting, scraping meat off bones, processing plants.
Basic but effective. What's next?
Stage 2 is a big jump. Acheulean starts maybe 1.7, 1.8 million years ago. It lasts a long time, until maybe 500,000 years ago. This is associated with H. ergaster and H. erectus.
And these look different.
Oh yeah, you get bifacial tools. Stones worked symmetrically on both sides. Things like hand axes, cleavers. It shows planning, foresight, a mental template, a real cognitive advance.
Okay, stage 3.
Mousterian. Roughly 200,000 to 40,000 years ago. More sophisticated techniques for making flakes, producing specialized tools like points, scrapers, associated strongly with Neanderthals, but also early Homo sapiens.
And the final stage in this sequence.
Upper Paleolithic. From about 90,000, maybe starting even earlier in Africa, down to about 12,000 years ago. Big jump in complexity and variety. Bone tools, needles, fishing hooks, spear throwers, and art. Cave paintings. This is firmly associated with modern humans, H. sapiens.
That technological acceleration, especially into the Upper Paleolithic, seems really rapid.
It is. Compared to the long periods of relative stability in Oldowan and Acheulean tech, the later changes happen much faster. It hints at significant cognitive evolution in our direct lineage.
Before we get fully to Homo sapiens, we need to talk about some of those other branches, like the Neanderthals.
Right. Often seen emerging from an ancestor like Homo heidelbergensis around 200,000 years ago. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, become widespread across Europe and Western Asia.
What were they like, physically?
Shorter, very robust muscular skeletons, distinctive brow ridges, and interestingly, their average brain size was actually slightly larger than ours today, maybe 10% larger.
Larger brains. So why aren't they us? Why a separate species that went extinct?
Good question. Well, there are consistent skeletal differences, but the really strong evidence comes from genetics. Specifically mitochondrial DNA extracted from Neanderthal fossils.
What does the mtDNA tell us?
It shows their maternal lineage diverged from the lineage leading to modern humans quite a long time ago. The estimate is around 660,000 years ago. And crucially, it seems Neanderthal mtDNA didn't get passed into the modern human gene pool, suggesting they were distinct groups that eventually died out.
What about things like language? There was some buzz about the FOXP2 gene.
Yes, that's fascinating. Neanderthal DNA shows they had the same key mutations in the FOXP2 gene that are linked to speech and language processing in humans.
So they could talk like us.
Not necessarily. While the genetic potential might have been there, anatomical reconstructions of their vocal tract, the larynx position, the shape of the throat, suggest it was more like a chimpanzee's. That would likely limit the range and complexity of sounds they could produce. So probably some form of vocal communication, but perhaps not the full range of modern human language.
Okay, so that brings us to the origin of us, Homo sapiens. The big debate used to be what, out of Africa versus multi-regionalism?
That's right. The multi-regional or candelabra model suggested modern humans evolved in parallel in different parts of the world from existing H. erectus populations. The single origin or out of Africa model proposed that modern humans evolved relatively recently in Africa and then spread out, replacing older hominin populations.
And what settled the debate? You mentioned molecular data earlier.
Exactly. Molecular clock studies were the key. By looking at genetic variation in modern human populations, we could estimate the time back to the last common ancestor.
How does that work?
Two main lines of evidence were powerful. First, mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA again, because it's passed down only through the mother and doesn't get reshuffled.
It acts like a clock, tracking mutations over time.
Precisely. When researchers looked at mtDNA from people all over the world, they found two crucial things. One, all non-African mtDNA types are just variants of types found within Africa. And two, Africa itself has the greatest diversity of mtDNA.
Which means?
It strongly implies the common ancestor lived in Africa. The time depth calculated points to a mitochondrial Eve somewhere between 140,000 and 290,000 years ago.
Wow. And was there confirming evidence?
Yes, from the male side. Looking at the Y chromosome, specifically the part that doesn't recombine and is passed only from father to son. Similar analysis traced the male lineage back to a Y-chromosome Adam, also in Africa, living roughly 150,000 years ago.
So both the maternal and paternal lines point to a relatively recent African origin for all modern humans.
Exactly. The genetic data overwhelmingly supports the single origin out of Africa model. Modern humans evolved in Africa and then dispersed, eventually replacing other hominins like Neanderthals and the last H. erectus populations.
And this dispersal wasn't instantaneous.
No, it took time. Reaching Eastern Europe maybe 50,000 to 70,000 years ago, Australia by around 40,000 years ago, and so on.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. This deep dive through the chapter really highlights that human evolution wasn't some neat ladder.
Not at all. It was bushy, experimental, lots of branches, extinctions, replacements, a complex process.
But driven initially by one key change, bipedalism. That unlocked everything else that followed: the tool use, the travel, eventually the bigger brains.
And the timing is crucial. You get bipedalism way back, maybe 6 million years ago or more. Then the genus Homo and the first simple tools around 2.5 million years ago. Then much later, maybe only in the last few 100,000 years, you get the big brain expansion, complex culture, and anatomically modern humans.
There's a definite layering of these key human traits over millions of years.
Absolutely.
And for a final thought, something to chew on, consider that deep link between how we move and how we think or manipulate the world.
Yeah, the evolution of bipedalism didn't just free the hands. It also reshaped the foot for endurance running and efficient striding. Think about Homo erectus covering vast distances.
So the ability to travel efficiently and the ability to make sophisticated tools like those Acheulean hand axes might have evolved hand in hand, or foot in hand.
Huh. Foot in hand, I like that. But yes, there seems to be a powerful co-evolutionary loop. Changes in locomotion, potentially enabling new foraging strategies or ranges, freeing hands for better tool use, which in turn might select for cognitive changes.
Yeah.
It's this interplay between moving, manipulating, and thinking that really defines our unique evolutionary journey.
A fascinating connection to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.